Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So today is day 1 of our Jenkins advanced course. Okay, so before starting the video I would request you please support me by subscribing to the channel, which keeps me motivated to keep making hands-on videos for you. Also, I have launched my batch 2 of DevSecOps and Cloud DevOps course. So if you want a dedicated course to practice and be prepared for interview in 2 months, also I'm teaching everything from scratch. So if you want that, you can register to this course, whose link will in the description. Course price is 6,000 after 25% discount. Okay, so if you want to a dedicated course for 2 months, you can just register it. Okay, also I'm available on Telegram as well as Instagram. So if you need any guidance, suggestion or anything, you can just ping me there. Okay. Now let's jump to today's topic. So today we are going to get started with Jenkins advanced course. Okay. So before going to Jenkins, let's understand what would be the scenario when there was no Jenkins. Okay. So let's say like we have this Git repository. Okay. And we are keeping our source code inside our Git repository, and we have created multiple branches to keep multiple versions of the source code. For example, develop branch will be having the source code that has the configuration to be deployed on develop environment. Okay. Then we have a feature branch. So feature branch will be containing the source code for like adding any new features. For that, source code will be there. Okay. Then we have prod branch, which will contain the source code, different version of source code, which will be going to deployed on production environment. And similarly we have DR for disaster recovery environment. Okay. Now let's say like I want to basically my requirement is that as soon as I push my source code inside my repository, I want the source code to be tested, not just tested, but also applications should be built using the new source code, and so that I can see if my code is correct, as well as application how it is working or not, if it is working or not, right? So what we can do, in generally we have this set of commands that we run, right? For example, like I just pushed a source code in develop branch, and I want I want to test it properly. Then manually I will run these commands, right? Check out the source code somewhere, compile the source code, run the test cases, perform different security checks, build the code. Okay, then create Docker images, then deploy the application to develop environment, right? Now the problem with this is that it requires lots of manual effort, right? We are pushing the source code, then manually running each command one by one, which will take a lot of time. Also, there is no history maintained. Okay, by history maintained is like you can understand if I ran the code, okay, and something went wrong, then I cannot go back and fix it or like check what went wrong, right? If you are not having any CI/CD tool. Same way, let's say another requirement is that this manual effort should be reduced. Okay, my requirement is that as soon as I push the source code, it should automatically be tested, and all these commands should be ran, and quickly the application should be deployed into develop environment. Automatically this should be done, right? Which is not possible if you are not using any CI/CD tool. Secondly, let's say there are other branches, so there are other developers also working, so they also want to run the commands. Okay, but there is only one VM where we are working, so it's not possible for all of them to work at the same time without affecting each other. Okay, so it's not very proper way or the good way to work with like building and checking our source code without any CI/CD tool. Okay, now to solve this problem we have Jenkins. Okay, now Jenkins, but it's known as a CI/CD tool. Okay, what exactly is CI/CD tool? Okay, so the CI and CD, they are short for continuous integration and continuous deployment / delivery. Okay, now what exactly is continuous integration and continuous deployment / delivery? So continuous integration basically means multiple people can work on the same Git repository without causing any problems, as well as they can instantly test the source code and build the application with the new source code, deploy the application, and without like causing any issue with other developers or other branches. Okay, that is continuous integration. They should be able to do that. In addition to that, they should be able to integrate multiple tools and work with that also at the same time. Okay, so like it becomes very complex, right? But to solve this problem, we have Jenkins or any other CI/CD tools which solve this problem. Okay, now this is CI, right? Continuously pushing a source code and testing it at the same time without any manual effort, right? Then we have CD. CD means continuous deployment or continuous delivery, which in simple words means after the application has been built, we have the application artifact, okay, then we can deploy it to a server. Okay, now I said continuous deployment and continuous delivery, right? So continuous deployment means deployment is completely automated, there is no manual effort is required, while continuous delivery means a manual approval will be needed for the final deployment. Okay, so continuous deployment is automated, continuous delivery is not automated, it requires manual approval. Okay, I hope CI/CD is clear. Okay, now let's understand how exactly Jenkins solved the problem of this like reduces the manual effort. How does it do that? Okay, so basically Jenkins with Jenkins what we can do, we can create a setup. Okay, setup which is known as, in Jenkins it is known as Jenkins job. Okay, so let's say I created a job and I configured the job to run all these 6 steps, okay, automatically. Okay, only one time I need to provide the configuration, and afterwards whenever I push any source code, that as soon as the source code is pushed, automatically it will run all these commands and test the application, build the application and deploy to our development server without any manual effort, right? Okay, so how does it do that? So Jenkins, it supports a thing which is known as job. Okay, the task that we are going to configure inside Jenkins to run automatically everything is known as job. Okay, there are different kinds of job which we will discuss as we move ahead. Okay, so Jenkins, what it will do, it will create a job. Inside the job we can configure that as soon as also, like, see this automation part which I am saying, as soon as the source code is pushed, it should trigger these commands to run automatically. That is done through a specific configuration known as webhooks. Okay, so basically we configure webhooks from a repository to Jenkins, and as soon as to a specific branch which we can define. For example, I have selected develop. Okay, so as soon as I push my source code inside develop branch, automatically using webhook it will start this job. Okay, as soon as this job starts, all these commands will be ran and my latest code will be deployed to a deployment server instantly. Okay, without any manual effort. And that is what CI/CD is all about. Okay, first automation, secondly reducing the manual effort, and also, you know, the best part with Jenkins is that we can maintain a history, like how many jobs we are running. Every time a job is triggered, we can keep that in history to see who triggered it and what are the changes we are getting deployed. Okay, easily we can see it. Okay, not only just that, but also like we can like allow other users to run their jobs on different branch, okay, without causing any problem to the existing jobs. Okay, so that is also a feature that Jenkins provide. Okay, these things will be more clear once we do hands-on. Okay, but for now let's understand. I hope you got the point. We are literally automating and performing CI and CD. By CI means like we are making sure that as soon as we are pushing source code, it should be tested, implemented, and should the latest changes should be deployed to production server or like whichever environment we are working with. For example, if you are working with development branch, then latest code should be deployed to development environment. If you are working with production branch, then the source code inside this branch should be deployed to production environment, right? So in this way, Jenkins helps to, first of all, it helps to manage everything, keep everything categorized, maintain history, who ran the build, who did everything, and as soon as it helps us to automate testing of the source code as well as building it. Okay, like every time we push the source code, automatically job will be Jenkins job will be triggered and all these tasks will be performed automatically. Okay, so this is what Jenkins is all about, and this is exactly what we are going to implement. Okay, now let's talk about how we can set Jenkins up. Okay, first of all, you know, usually we have Linux and Windows. These are the two most OS systems which are being used, right? We have Mac also, but mostly Linux and Windows. Out of Linux and Windows on corporate projects, mainly Linux is being used for CI/CD. Okay, Jenkins is basically set up on Linux machines. Okay, so we are going to focus on setting up Jenkins on Linux machine. I will show you multiple ways of setting up Jenkins, okay, on like different ports, okay, as well as how we can start using it, how we can create pipeline jobs and everything. Okay, so let's start setting up Jenkins first. Okay, so let's do that. Okay team, so as I told, like Linux is one of the most used OS on which Jenkins is being installed and being used on corporate projects. Okay, Now, how to install Jenkins on Linux, right? So first of all, we need to have a VM. For me, I usually go with AWS based VMs, and that is what we are going to do here. Okay, we are going to create a AWS based VM. First of all, you need to make sure that certain port is open on that VM. Okay, so if you are using a default way for installing, like we are going to install Jenkins by default, then it will be getting installed on port 8080. Okay, but if you want to change port also, that also you can do. But let's talk about first setting up Jenkins on default. Okay, so that it goes on getting installed on port 8080. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is have a VM. So I will create a VM by clicking on launch instance. For me, usually I go with Ubuntu based machines, and let's select version 20.04 LTS. Okay, kind of stable, so I take it. And okay, one question that I will that every time people ask me, which VM size we should take. Okay, so if you just want to practice, my suggestion, go with medium of 4 GB of RAM and 2 CPU. Okay, but if you want to integrate multiple servers and multiple tools, you want to have too many stages, like 14-15 different stages in Jenkins pipeline, then go with either 8 GB of RAM. Okay, basically T2 large or T2 extra large, either of them we can go. Okay, for now, since just want to test it everything, like how to set up Jenkins and all, so we are going to go with T2 medium. Okay, then key pair. So I have already a key pair. In case you are not having key pair, you can click on create new key pair, provide a name, and the rest do not change anything. PEM format, RSA, and click on create key pair. Okay, so I will just select the one that I already have, and VPC. So for basically security group, so I have this security group configured in my machine. Okay, and then size. So for me, since it is just testing, I will just take 15 GB of storage. Okay, click on launch instance, and instance launch is success. So we will open this, copy the public IP address. Okay, and now we need to access the VM to run any commands, right? So for me, usually I go with MobaXterm. That is the best tool. Usually you might have seen like Putty is out there, but best tool for accessing VM or working with VMs, any kind of VM, like Windows based machines or Linux based, you can just go with MobaXterm. It is free and portable and very easy to use with best features. Okay, so double click on it, and this will open the MobaXterm. So let's say I have created my VM, I want to connect it. So first I will click on session, click on SSH, provide the IP address, then username. So I have created like Ubuntu machine, so by default username will be Ubuntu. If you are using EC2 machine, Linux machine, then in that they have default user as EC2 user. Okay, here for authentication we are going to click on advanced SSH, then we are going to click on private key, use private key. So we need to browse to location where our PEM file is there. Okay, for me this is the file. I will select it, click on open, click on OK. Now you can see authenticating with public key. Now it is inside. Okay, so let's first of all let's clear the screen by running the command Control L. Okay, command is ran. Okay, now few things that you should know when you are working with a Linux based machine. So if you have created a Linux machine just recently, make sure that first command that you run is sudo apt update. So this will update whatever repositories are there in Linux default repository and packages. It will update all the cache and everything. Okay, so make sure to run this before, like after you run this, then only you should run any other commands. Okay, so it's running. Let's wait for it. Meanwhile, let it run. Okay, it's completed. So for clearing screen, Control L. Okay, now let's talk about where can we get the commands to install Jenkins. Okay, my suggestion, instead of searching here and there, best place, search on Google and get the commands from the official page of Jenkins. Okay, so I will just type install maybe in second, install Jenkins. That's all you need to write on Google, and first option that comes, that is the official website of Jenkins. Click on it, and here you can see in the left side installing Jenkins section, you can have these many different like OS where we can install, right? For me it's going to be Linux, so let's click on it, and I have just created a Ubuntu based machine, right? So I will click on first option. Okay, now one thing that you should know before installing Jenkins is the prerequisite of installing Jenkins, right? So a JDK version should be installed, a Java should be installed by default on your VM. Okay, now I have a very interesting trick for you. You know, like you might work with Java also. Okay, So for installing JDK, what I can do, first of all, I can run the command to check if it is already present or not. I can write java-v, okay, and click enter, and you can see Java not found, but it gives you the commands to install whichever version you want. Okay, for example, 11, 13, 16, 17, 8. Okay, usually I go with 11 because it is not the latest and not the oldest, but works fine with almost every version of project. Okay, so 11 usually I can go with. Okay, and I can run this command. I can just paste this command and run it. Okay, this is also a good way to install. Okay, but usually, you know what I do, instead of installing the JDK directly here, I run the command as sudo apt install maven. So by default, what it does, this command will install maven also 3.6 version, and it will install JDK 11 also. So it's like two birds with one stone. Okay, right? And eventually, like, since for me, I always go with Maven based projects, work with Maven based project. So for me, it's a good thing, like I'm able to install both the tools at one time only, right? So since the JDK we need to have before installing Jenkins, so we will just install it. And let it install. Once it is installed, then we can get started with downloading the Jenkins package and then install Jenkins as a service. Okay. Okay, it's almost done, I guess. Yeah. So it is installed now. If I run the command mvn-v, so we can see Maven has installed 3.6 and Java automatically got installed 11, right? So this is a one tips and tricks you should know, right? Installing Maven and JDK at the same time, right? So this part is done. Next, what I want to do is choose the version which I want to use installation of Jenkins. Okay. So you can see there are two versions, long-term support LTS version, and we have weekly release. Okay, so my suggestion, always go with long-term support version because it is kind of stable. Okay, so these are the commands we need to install, we need to execute. Okay, so let me copy each command one by one separately, so we can see. Basically, just to let you know what exactly we are doing here. So here we are adding a Jenkins package into the Linux repository, because by default Jenkins package is not present. So once I run this command, the Jenkins package will be added, and then we can install it by running the command apt install Jenkins. Okay, so that's what we are doing now. So let me copy this command also and paste it here. Okay, and yeah, final command. Yeah, so like every time if you add third-party package, you need to update your repository so that it gets upgraded and it becomes available for installation. Okay, and final command is this one, to install Jenkins. And by default, the size of Jenkins that is being installed is 90 MB. Okay, so do not forget that. And again, one more thing that I am saying, when you are installing Jenkins, make sure you are using a VM size like either T2 medium or above. Do not use below that. You will get a lot of problems and lot of hanging. Okay, it will become slow and you won't be able to use Jenkins very easily. Okay, and if you are concerned about paid service from AWS, the thing is it's not very costly. I use like 3-4 hours a day on usually on Jenkins, and it costs around like 50-60 rupees, or like maximum 100 rupees for me. So yeah, okay, now Jenkins, I guess it is installing, and let's wait for it. Yeah, so it is installed, right? Next, what we need to do is scroll down, and you see installation of Java. Jenkins requires Java to run, and as you see, using the command sudo apt install maven, we have already installed Java as well as maven also. Okay, and here they are showing to install OpenJDK 17, but for me, since I use usually 11, so I have installed 11. Okay, scroll down, and yeah, now this process we need to run, which is start Jenkins. Okay, so first we will enable the Jenkins service which we have just installed by running this command. Okay, and next command is to start Jenkins. Okay, let me copy, paste it, started. Okay, now before we try to access the Jenkins over browser, first thing that we need to do is check the status by running this command sudo systemctl status Jenkins. Okay, also one more good thing that I'm telling you again, you don't need to literally search here and there for installing Jenkins. Just go to the official page, and from there you can get all the commands you need. Okay, so let me run this command, and you can see all the details we are getting here. Status is running, and where exactly it is running, on port 8080, you can see here from here, right? Okay, now let me control C. Okay, now Jenkins is set up also and running also. Where exactly it is running, on port 8080. Okay, so let us try to access it. So first, what I will do, I will go to my I will get the public IP address of the VM where I'm installing it, paste here in the browser, colon port 8080. Okay, click enter, and you can see it is opening the login page of Jenkins. Okay, first thing, we need to put the administrator password which exists in this file. How do we access it? We will just copy this thing, go to our VM and run the command as cat. Cat is the command which is used to view the contents of a file, and paste the file. Okay, now permission denied. Why? Because we are using Ubuntu user. So to solve this problem, we can use sudo to run the same command with elevated privileges. Okay, I can just add sudo in the beginning. Okay, let me increase the size. Yeah, right, click enter, and you can see this is the password that we need to enter, right? So I will just copy this, paste it here, click continue. Okay, now here two options you see, right? Customize Jenkins, install suggested plugins, and select plugins to install. My suggestion, always go for install suggested plugins, because Jenkins knows better than you which plugins are necessary in the beginning, so it will install as per its own requirement. So we will go with Jenkins, first option. Okay, now here you can see these are the default plugins that Jenkins is going to install. Okay, and depending your internet speed as well as the VM size, like how smooth it can run, it will install as per that. Okay, if your speed is very nice, it will install very quickly. If your speed is like medium or just general, it will take some time. Okay, so let's wait for some time so that we can see the status. Okay team, so as you can see, all the plugins are almost installed, and now yeah, we are on the getting started page. Okay, so here we need to provide certain details like username, password. Make sure you provide something that you can remember. For me, I just usually go with Aditya every time, so it's much easier for me to remember. Full name you can provide, then email address, we can go with anything you want, it doesn't matter much. Okay, and do not click on this skip and continue admin, because if you forget the password, then you are stuck, then you have to do some workaround to again access your Jenkins browser. Okay, sorry, Jenkins page. So instead of that, just create an account, and you can create an ad. This is the location where we are creating admin user with full access, so it's better to remember the username and password. Okay, now click on save and continue. Okay, and you can see this will be the Jenkins URL, so we will click on save and finish, start using Jenkins. Okay, now this is the first page that you are going to see when you install or set up Jenkins. Okay, now let me walk you through about all the options that we are seeing here. Okay, first option on left side, we have new item, so clicking on here will let you start creating the Jenkins jobs. Okay, and you can see there are multiple kinds. You can provide any name here, then you can select the type, for example Freestyle pipeline and multi-branch pipeline. These three are the most commonly used projects. Okay, so let us see other options. Then we have other important option is manage Jenkins or build history. Build history is like the build history of Jenkins. Okay, what exactly happened on specific date. Okay, so that you can do, but most important option are only two options. First is new item for creating jobs, and second important option is manage Jenkins, which is like the settings of Jenkins. Okay, all the configuration of Jenkins can be managed inside manage Jenkins section. Okay, so let me dismiss. Okay, now there are so many options, right? Now let me walk you through some of the most important ones that you should know. Okay, first one we should learn about is plugins. Okay, so you know, like we are installing many different tools and integrating them with Jenkins, right? How do we do that? So basically, for example, I want to install or integrate SonarQube. Okay, so first of all, I need to make sure that plugin of SonarQube is available or installed in Jenkins, so that we can search in available plugins, and you can see as soon as I search SonarQube, the first option that comes, SonarQube scanner, I can just install it. Okay, by selecting it. Okay, let's say I have a requirement where I want to install different versions of Java. So I can search for So I can search for JDK, okay, and scroll down this option, Eclipse Temurian installer. This will help you install open JDK versions, multiple versions. Okay, now you can see two plugins we have selected, right? To install them, we can just click on install. Okay, and here we can see the progress. So this is the way that you install plugins. Okay, now you might be thinking what's so interesting about it. So basically, whenever you want to configure anything new, any third-party tool, you need to install their plugin here. Then only you would be able to configure them. Okay, now let's say like there is some a plugin I want to install, but it is not available inside Jenkins this plugin section. Okay, so in that case, how can we install? Okay, so for that we can go to advanced sections. Okay, scroll down. Okay, now here this option you are seeing deploy plugin. Okay, so basically when you want to install a plugin manually, for example, let's say Kubernetes HPI. HPI is then extension for Jenkins plugins. Okay, for example, like let me open this plugin and I can download this plugin also. Let me see, go to releases. Okay, where is it here? Yeah, direct link. Okay, so let me download. Okay, so this plugin that you are seeing here, Kubernetes.hpi, as I told, HPI is an extension for Jenkins plugins. Okay, now let's say some plugin is depreciated, but still you want to use it. You can go here, choose file, download the HPI version, select it, okay, and click on deploy. Now this will install you can see here the progress. Now it is installing all the related Kubernetes plugins. Okay, so this is good way when you want to manually install a plugin that may or may not available publicly, okay, or officially is like not available. So in that way you can install, right? Got it? Okay, now again once we have like installed plugins of whatever tool we want to use, we need to configure those tools, right? So for that we have this option, tools. If you are using older version of Jenkins, then you might see this option as global tool configuration. Since I'm using the latest version, because eventually when you are going to join companies, you are going to work with latest version of Jenkins, right? So this is the section where you configure a tool. Okay, so as you remember, I installed Java plugin as well as SonarQube plugin, right? So for when I install Java plugin, then we can configure JDK, right? Let's say I want to configure JDK 17. So I will provide a name. Okay, and you can see this option, right? So instead of using this option, we will click on install automatically, expand this, and this second option that you are seeing, install from Adoptium, that is visible because we have installed that plugin, Eclipse Temurian installer. So if I click on it, easily we can select any version of Java we want to use. For example, for me, JDK 17. So I selected it, and let's say it's configured actually. Okay, now let's say I installed SonarQube also, right? So here you can see SonarQube scanner installation. These options are available because we have installed that plugin. Okay, if I did not install SonarQube plugin, this option wouldn't be here. Now to configure, when I say like we have installed the plugin, now we need to configure it. So we will go to Manage Jenkins, Tools, and whatever tool we want to configure. Here, for three sections usually exist. Sorry, two sections. One is name you need to provide. For example, I will just provide sonar-scanner. Okay. Then you should select, always do not forget, always select, if this option is visible, install automatically, make sure to select this. Okay, because directly then you just need to select the version you want to use. Okay, you can select latest or any specific version. In this way, two plugins I have configured, right? You can see we can click on save or apply, and they can be saved. Okay, so this is what we do in tool section, and in plugins you understood, right? These two sections. Third section that I want to walk you through is system. Okay, so basically now this section's name is system, but previously in older version of Jenkins it was known as configure system. Okay, in even like some versions, if you are going in a company which is using older version of Jenkins, then you will see the name as configure system. Okay, scroll down. Basically this is the section of Jenkins where we configure servers. Okay, for example, let's say I have created a SonarQube server. Okay, I have created a SonarQube server and I want to configure it inside Jenkins. Okay, so we will go inside the system or configure system section, scroll down, and you will see some option, SonarQube servers. Okay, and here you see this option, SonarQube installations. Click on add SonarQube, provide a name, then URL of the SonarQube. Okay, whatever, if you have watched my other videos, you might know the URL, how it looks. Okay, the URL. Then to make sure that we are to authenticate that access to that URL, we need to provide a token. Okay, now you are seeing as of now there is no token or anything. Okay, so we need to basically, there is a specific section in Jenkins which I will show you, where we can configure credentials, username, password, private keys, tokens and whatnot. Okay, so in this way there are other options also here, but most importantly, if someone asks you what exactly is the section, system or configure system, so you can say that is the system where we configure different servers. Okay, servers as well as other settings of Jenkins, but most importantly servers. Okay, coming to other section, let's go to nodes. Okay, so basically, like sometimes there is a requirement where we want to use our own VM as an agent or slave, Jenkins slave. Okay, so basically when I say Jenkins slave, basically a slave will be a machine on which we will performing the whatever task you want, like building of application, running test cases and whatever. So to make sure that we are able to use a third-party virtual machine as an slave in Jenkins, we need to add it in node. We can click on new node, provide a name like slave1 permanent agent, click on create. Okay, and here we need to provide configuration like the where is it? So here, for example, I'm using this option launch agent via SSH. So here we need to provide the IP address of virtual machine and like credential for that virtual machine. Okay, so in this way you can configure a VM as a slave, which I will be showing you in detail when we are in as we are in different like other classes. Okay, coming back to manage Jenkins, next we have important section which is known as credentials. So as I told, this is the section where we are going to add credential or username, password, tokens or SSH with private keys, those things. Okay, for that we can just click on add credentials, select the kind. You can see there are multiple kinds: username with password, GitHub app, OpenShift username password, SSH username with private key, secret file, secret text, so many things. Okay, for example, if I want to configure SonarQube, I will go with secret text because we are generating a specific token in SonarQube, and we can copy the text here and provide a name like sonar-cred. Same thing we can put in description also. Click on create and you can see our credential has been added. Okay, so this is the section where we add credentials. Okay, so these are the most important sections which you should be aware about. Okay, system, tools, plugins, nodes and credentials. Okay, now let's go to this section. Okay, now let's talk about creating Jenkins jobs. So as I told, there are three main kind of Jenkins jobs: freestyle job, pipeline job and multi-branch pipeline, right? So let's today in this section we are going to learn about freestyle job, how we can build applications using freestyle job. Okay, so let's do that. Okay team, so let's create a freestyle Jenkins job first. Okay, that is the starting phase of learning Jenkins jobs. Okay, so we will click on new item and let's provide a job. Let's provide a name as maybe Jenkins underscore job underscore 1. Okay, and we will select the option as freestyle project. Click on OK. Okay, now let's talk about how we can configure and whatever things that are we are going to be needing. Okay, first of all, let's just save it. Okay, so one thing that we have not done yet is configured our Maven, because we are going to use Maven for building Java based project, right? So for that we can go to Jenkins homepage, manage Jenkins as I told, then go to tools to configure whatever tool we want, scroll down and you will see the option Maven. Okay, so let's provide the name as Maven Maven 3 and version I want to use is 3.6.0. click on apply. Okay, now go back to home page, open our job, click on configure. Okay, so as a part of best practice, I don't like to keep too much of history in our Jenkins job. Okay, so in that case I will, because keeping too much of history, it occupies a lot of space. Okay, which I don't want. So I have this option discard old builds, where I want to keep only 2 builds in my history. Last 2 builds will be in the history. Okay, and scroll down and here the first section that you see is source code management. basically meaning where is your source code, from where it should fetch it. Okay, so we are going to use git, and here we need to provide the repository URL. So I'm going to use this secret Santa application, which is one of the full stack application having front end, back end, and a database. Okay, so we are going to provide it here, the URL, and credential won't be needing because the project is public. Okay, so no credential needed. Okay, and yeah, let me see if anything else we need to add here. Okay, now specific branch we want to work with. So here main branch or like master branch I want to work with. So I will just yeah, name is correct, branch is correct, right? Scroll down, and then we have build triggers. We will discuss these things later. First we need to understand how basically we can build applications, right? Okay, so we have this build steps option, expanded, and we will find one option, invoke top level Maven targets, which you can use for building or working with Java based or Maven based Spring Boot applications. Okay, for others, like if you want to execute shell commands, you can use this. Then we have Gradle also, so many things depending on like what plugins you are installing. For example, you have Node.js based application, you can install Node.js and some option will appear here to execute Node.js applications. Okay, for now let's select invoke top level Maven targets. Okay, now Maven, since we have configured the Maven version Maven 3, that is fine, and goals. Okay, now here we need to write the goals we want to perform. Okay, for me, let's say I want to perform basically package. So when I run the command package, automatically Maven will perform, Maven will compile the source code, Maven will run the test cases, and then Maven will package the application. Okay, advanced option, it is empty. POM file, in case your POM file is not on root location, you can provide the path here, but for us it's already in root location, and rest everything we will just leave it as it is. Just click on apply. We can click on build now, and this will start building the application. Okay, which progress we can see here, you can see, click on this, and progress we can see here. Okay, so it has started. First what it did, first it cloned the repository. This is the part where it was cloning. Then it is downloading the dependencies needed for building the application. And if I scroll down at the end, you can see it is running test cases, I guess. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it is able to build the application, and application has been built. Okay, now let me go back to the job and scroll down. You can see job is success, right? Okay, let me expand this. Great. Now since the job is success, now what we can do is basically deploy this application through jar file. Okay, that is the basic way of like executing any application. Okay team, so once the job is success, on left side there is this option workspace. Okay, and this is a section where you can see the source code in addition to the original source code, whatever files have been generated during the build process. For example, once we ran the command maven package, it created this folder, target folder. So inside target folder, whatever new files are created, that will exist. For example, for us the executable file is this one. This is the exact application in the executable format. Okay, so our artifact is generated. Now what we can do is execute this artifact. Okay, let me show you how we can do that, and we can access the application on browser. Okay, so for that let me click on this, and I will select execute shell. Okay, so we need to provide the what like exactly how we can execute the application, right? So I will run the command as java -jar -d server dot port equal to 8081, and then target /star.jar. Now what it will do, it will basically start the application on port 8081. Just to confirm, let me match. Yeah, that's fine. Let me apply. Now you can see two commands I have added. First one is building the application, second one is executing or running the application. This is spelling mistake, let me correct it. Java -jar. Yeah, now it's correct. So let's try to execute it and let's see the results. Progress we can track from here. Okay, it says the application has started. Okay, so let us try to see if we can access the application on port 8081. Great, you can see application is running. If I click on start, we can, whatever we want we can do. These whatever details I'm adding here, they are getting added inside databases. Okay, the application is deployed and it runs fine. Okay, and everything is working fine. Okay, now what I want to tell you is that this job will be running in background because we have not literally deployed the application, but we have just built it, and for testing purpose we have just executed the jar file or the executable application. Okay, so for that reason you can see Jenkins job is still running because the server is the Tomcat server that we have deployed now, it's temporary. Okay, in future we'll be deploying to like permanent servers where we don't need to keep our Jenkins job running. Okay, but for now what I wanted to show you is how we can build the application inside a Freestyle Jenkins job. Okay, that is what, right? I hope you got the point, and you can see application is running fine. That means this is for testing purpose. Okay, usually see, in my opinion, what I have seen, Freestyle Jenkins jobs are mostly used for small tasks. Like you want to perform very small tasks like run basic command, shell command, build a Java based application or something like that. Okay, on a bigger application, the Freestyle job is not at all used. On bigger application, full stack applications, we use pipeline job or multi-branch pipeline job, which we will be covering in future classes. Okay, so yeah, today I hope you got the point how you can set up Jenkins. Okay, one more thing I forgot to tell you. So like the best method that you got the point how you can set up Jenkins, right? Let's say I want to install Jenkins on a different server or on the same server, but I want to install it very quickly. Okay, or it's like a temporary server. Okay,